Welcome back, everybody, to Asmodeah City. I am your ghost host for this particular adventure. And again, we are talking about the Foundry Virtual Tabletop. And for those of you that are not game masters, this video may or may not be for you. You're certainly welcome to sit around and watch us make sausage, but this is really designed for the game masters, not players per se. So again, you can stick around if you like. But we're going to talk today about sounds. And today I'm going to talk about not only kind of ambient sounds, I'm going to talk about three different things here. Ambient sounds, regular sounds that are triggered, and then how to dynamically turn on and off sounds based on the time of day, and I put that in air quotes, in your game. So let's talk about Foundry Virtual Tabletop and how we manage sounds right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back. For those of you that haven't done this already, please do hit that subscribe button and hit that smash, or I should say smash that like button down there, and also make sure you get notified of new videos. We've got a ton that are going to be coming out, lots of cool content that's coming up, and do comment for us. Let us know if you think we've missed something, if there's something that you have a question about, and I will also make sure that you know that we also have a Discord community that is beginning to grow, and that's at discord.am. I'm just going to say Amazon, discord.asmodeah.com, and just join us there. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. And if I'm not there, or one of our other kind of leadership people are not there, somebody's going to be around. We will absolutely see your message, and we'll help you in any way that we can. So let's get started talking about sounds. And you're looking at a map that I have here right now that has kind of this background sound that's going on. And the nice thing about these ambiance or ambience sounds is that it kind of sets the mood for a particular scene. So just kind of like, the music in Jaws, where you hear, go dun 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 dun, that immediately when you hear that music, it makes you tense, right? So you can set the mood for your players by kind of having this background ambiance sound kind of going on. Now I'm going to turn this up so that you can hear this. And you can tell I have this kind of music going on in the background. And I have it set, and let me go in here and into configuring this. I've got this set to, and I'm on this ambience tab that's on the far right here of the scene, configure scene screen. And you can see I've got it set to look into this playlist, which is ambiance, and I've got this particular sound that's playing. So if you look over here at the music side of things, I've got this playlist right here that's ambiance, and then I've got Phantascape that's playing, and you can see it's running right now. Otherwise I wouldn't see that stop button, and it is set to loop, so it's just kind of looping around. Now, if I turn it up a little bit, let me turn it up. There we go. So now you can kind of hear this ethereal background music kind of going on. And it's great. I'm going to turn it down because I don't want it to be, you don't want it to be irritating for your players. If it's irritating for your players and they can't hear well, plus there are other sounds that you want to make sure that they hear, and I'm going to show you that in a second, you want to make sure it's not irritating. So be careful about how loud you might make those sounds when they're actually being played. They can, of course, turn them up and down using their own volume controls when they're in Foundry. So you never know where they've set these. So if they set the ambient sounds or the ambient sounds down to very low, and the interface sounds whatever, I mean, there's all sorts of different ways they can set these things on their own. So you want to be careful about not kind of setting this either too low or too high. And you'll notice in this particular scene for mine, when I look at the scene here, I've got this this set to Phantascape, and you can't set the audio here. So what you can do is only change it at the music level itself, and that's here. So here's where it's playing, and this is the level at which I've got it set for other players. Now that's just what I have it set to. So you can set it however you like. So that is the ambient kind of background noise for a scene itself. Let's talk about sounds within the map, right? So now you've got this option on the left-hand side, which is your ambient sound controls. And I know it says ambient sound, which is kind of funny because it's really triggered sounds. But you've got this ambient sound controls, and you could set something to be ambient, that it's, it's on all the time. But if I click on this, you'll see that I have this sound set right here. I have another one set over here. But if you see, I've got this sound set right here that's right over the top of this kind of statue dude. And he's holding this green stone that he's kind of eyeballing as if he's greedily looking at this thing. And he is got horns. He's a dwarf statue. And he's got horns on the top of him. And he's kind of greedily staring at the stone that's in his hand. So how do I tell my players that, hey, this is important? Well, I created a sound. Now, I'm going to create one over here just to kind of give you an example. So let's say I wanted to create one that's right here. I would just click here, hold it, drag, and you could see it I can make the radius kind of whatever I want it to be. And you'll notice it stops at the walls because that's the way I have it set. Now, I'm not going to create this one because I don't want to create a new one. And I will show you how this is set up here. So when we double click this, by the way, if you right click, you can turn it off, right click again, it's a toggle, and then you can double click to get into it. Now you can see I've got this set to this dwarf evil laugh loop. The loop is about a minute, I think. And so he laughs, and then there's a minute or so roughly, or 45 seconds or so roughly of silence, and then it triggers and it laughs again, right? So you can see also that I have the effect radius set to 15. So if I look at this, you can see it's 15 feet from the center, or essentially the back, but the center of this particular tile. So that'd be 5, 10, 15. That's where it's at right there. And it's constrained by walls, so it's not going to go through the walls. So you can see here that's where I click that constrained by walls right here. But you see this volume easing option. That means that if a character moves within the radius and the volume easing is turned on, it will be very low volume as they begin to enter this area, and as they get closer to the center of this particular sound radius, then it will get the loudest. So the loudest is going to be right on top of where this particular sound is. All right, so now you can set the maximum sound. I always kind of leave it at 0.7, which is 70%, because we don't know what our players have got these things set to. So I don't want it to be ridiculously loud here, but this is the maximum volume that they can turn it up to. Then we are going to talk in a little bit about this darkness activation range. And by the way, there is a module that I will tell you about that adds this to this particular sheet. And I'll link to, in a card up on top, I'll link to that video. We've got this thing set up, and we got this evil laugh that's here, and it's set to a radius of 15 feet. It's not volume eased, meaning as soon as they enter that kind of radius, they're going to hear it at the full volume that it's at. So I did that on purpose. I didn't want there to be easing here. I wanted it to be obvious when they triggered it. Now you'll notice if I go back to my character and I click on him, we're not hearing anything happening, right? Well, the reason for that is that the center, the very center of your token, is what triggers it or tells it that it is within that radius. So it might look to you like this is the center, but it's really not. It's actually just above the center of the token itself. So if we look back at this dude over here, Giarth, he clearly, if I click on him here, he clearly would never hear that sound because he's not within the radius. But if we click on Gendon over here, and for those of you that have watched any of my videos, you've probably seen these two characters many times. So my good buddy Gendon here, I'm going to move him within that the center of him within that radius, and watch what happens. Sorry, I had to reset my sound my sound settings there. So watch what happens when I click on my Gendon character here, and then I move him within the radius of that sound. So there's that evil laugh. And you'll notice if I click on Lord Gareth, he's not hearing that, but Gendon is. Now, again, this is a loop, so I've set it so that it laughs, and then about, I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute later, it laughs again. So I don't want this laughing all the time. It just would be irritating to have it laughing consistently. So what's interesting to note about this, and this is important for you to know, is that if you have your character enter that particular radius, so let me look at this. He's clearly in the radius, right? And he's triggered the sound. So now when I move outside of it again, and if I move back into it, he's not going to trigger the sound again. It's playing that loop. It's triggered already. So that loop is now playing. And after a certain period of time, you'll hear him laugh again. Now, if I move Lord Gareth up here, up to that area, once this loop starts to play again, he will hear that as well. And I did that on purpose, so that if Gareth is down here and Gendon is up here, and he said, oh, wait, this thing's laughing. And Gareth doesn't hear that. And so he's like, what? What are you talking about? And he walks up next to him, and he's like, it just laughed at me. And he's like, I don't hear anything. Yeah, but he did. He just laughed. And so I move him up here, and I think, oh, wait, I still don't hear anything. And he's like, trust me, I heard him. I heard this evil laugh that was happening from this stone. And of course, if they're smart, they're going to stay back a little ways from this particular bad boy statue that's there with the evil horns on it, staring at a green stone that's pulsating in his hand. So they're probably going to try to stay away as much as they can. So I did that on purpose. I did it because I wanted that kind of suspense. I didn't want to have this sound fill the entire room, and then anybody that enters the room is going to hear that sound. I wanted them to talk to each other. I want the players to interact with each other. So there you go. See, he just got triggered again. So that's what I really want. I want that kind of mysterious, what just happened kind of feel. So now we've talked about kind of triggering sounds and setting specific sounds. We've talked about constraining them on walls. We've talked about easing. So let's talk about how to dynamically set a sound to play at certain times, but not at others. So I'm going to go back to the city. And again, you're going to hear this kind of background noise that's happening. If I click on my buddy Lord Gareth here, you're going to hear the background noise, and you're hearing this Shrine of Luck noise right now. And let me turn this down. I'm gonna change this radius back down to 10. All right. So now you'll hear just kind of the background city sounds that are here. And if I turn them up, let me turn it up just a little bit so you can hear it. You'll hear this city background that's playing. And you hear that kind of background going on. So you want that, again, it sets the mood. Hey, we're in a city. We're not in a dungeon right now. We're not going to face any baddies. We're just kind of walking around a city, right? All right, so that's my ambiance for the city itself. But I also have this Shrine of Luck here that has a sound to it. So if you approach it, all of a sudden he hears that kind of ethereal noise. Now, let's say, for example, and I'm going to move away from it. Let's say, for example, we don't want this sound to play at night. We want it to play during the day, but we don't want it to play at night. So here's what you do. Now I've got, and let me show this module right here, and I'll go to my active modules. You can see I got tons of them here, but what's important is this one here called Darkness Activated Tiles. And when you add that, it gives you this new setting, both in your lighting and in your sound that you can use to turn sounds on and off depending on the game time of day. And you can see down at the bottom here, it's 8 a.m. All right, so now let's go into here and let's look at this sound. Here's the sound that is the sound for the shrine. So when I double click on it, you can see right now, this is the darkness activation range right here. That's coming from that module that I just showed you. And you can see that there's between 0 and 1. Now, here's where it got confusing. And I had to wrap my head around this when I first kind of started working with this particular setting and it's a part of some other settings as well. But what's interesting about this is that the 0 means no darkness. The 1 means full darkness. So think of it as percentage, 0 to 100%. So 0 meaning absolutely no darkness, 1 meaning 100% dark. Okay, so that's kind of the gotcha there. It's not no light versus full light, no darkness versus full darkness. So let's say I want this to play only during the day, but I don't want it to play at night. So when it's absolutely not dark, no darkness, I want it to play. But when it gets to be, let's say 60%, and it's a decimal. When it gets to be 60% dark, and that's represented by this 0.6 here. So now I'm going to update that sound, and I'm going to go back in here, and you can see at the bottom left, we're at 8 a.m., so it's full light outside, right? And I'm going to move my buddy on top of this, and you can see it's playing, right? So it's full light. But let's make it darker. Yeah, a little darker. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so now at looks like about 8 o'clock, maybe, about 8:30, maybe. Yeah, about 8:30 is when it finally triggers. That's 60% darkness. Now you can see also that these lights come on around here. I'll put a link to that video up in the cards above. That's part of if you go to our tutorials, Foundry tutorials playlist, you'll find it. It's dynamic lighting. So you can see the lighting comes on at that point in time. And so the sound goes away. And now that it's full darkness, we don't have the sound at all. But then if I bring it back to daytime, all of a sudden all these lights go out and that sound comes on. Now, let's go the opposite direction. Let's set this to where, oh, that's lights. Let's set this to where we want it to only turn on at 60% darkness, and when it's full dark, it's going to stay on. So this means at 60% darkness, it will turn on, and at 100% darkness, it's going to stay on, right? So I'll update that sound. Let's go back here, and you'll notice I've clicked on my buddy Lord Gearth, and we don't hear anything. So I can move him away and do whatever I want, and he's not hearing anything here. So now let's make it darker, shall we? Let's set it to, I think it was about 8:30. Ah, there we go. So now he hears that sound comes on at nighttime. So there you go. And let me turn this off because I don't want it to be an irritant behind us. But now you can see how you can dynamically create sound. You can constrain it to walls or not. You can set it to ease or not. And you can have a kind of a cool background sound that's happening on your scene or your map at all times. And you can change those on each map to be however you like. That's how you control sound, folks. It's awesome, and it sure makes a difference in the kind of mood setting for your players when they're playing. And again, I will ask, if you haven't already done this, please hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and leave us a comment. And do make sure you get that notification bell hit so that you get notified of any new videos that we come out with, because we are going to be coming out with tons. That's it for this adventure, folks. And again, as always, when you're adventuring, be careful, be safe, and be kind. Peace.